Good day, my name is Jarmark Anthony Dizon, and today I will introduce to you my capstone presentation in world literature, which is the real and cinematic poetry. In this, we are tasked to create two original poems highlighting or addressing two communal concerns. First is about eco-criticisms, and the second one is about our personal choice of literary theory. This presentation is divided into three. First is the original poem I created. Second is the literary criticisms and figure of speech that I used. And the third is the personal reflection of every poetry I created. The real and cinematic poetry I created is also available in YouTube, which the link is uploaded in the description box. You can click that and watch the real and cinematic poetry I created. And by that, let's start our presentation. The first title I created or poetry I built is entitled Earthings. It is uh, an eco-criticism poetry. So for the overview, Earthing is an eco-criticism poetry that explains and describes the experience of a boy giving his whole body, heart, and soul for nature and environment. As the title suggests, earthing means standing barefoot or laying in the grass, anything that allows your body to connect directly with the ground. Over time, humans have had less and less interaction with the outdoors or the environment. Basically, it's about my experience doing earthing, what I realize, what I understand about nature and environment, how it affects my whole life and my whole being, and its importance to humanity as well as in our whole self, holistic self. The process of earthing can literally help your holistic self, not just mentally, but also physically, socially, and even emotionally. Its objective is mainly about how people will appreciate the nature, how we can ideally realize its importance and benefits in our lives. It is not just a place, it is an experience that we need to take. So now let's proceed to the poem. So again, this is entitled Earthings. This is the first stanza. As I wake and rise in the morning for beginning, the sun beams and rays are peeking and glancing. A day I will offer my body, heart, mind, and being for earthing. It's the true and real world for existing, living, and meaning. Right. So in this stanza, you can imagine that the author was being courted or uh, given attention by the sun, beams, and rays. All right. So in this stanza, I use personification because I given the human attributes peeking and glancing to the sun. And aside from that, all of these lines are rhyming from the word beginning, peeking, glancing, being, earthing, existing, living, and meaning. We can imagine that uh, the author is in bed and he was uh, looking or the sunbeams and rays are flashing in his eyes. So now let's proceed to the second stanza. Run, lost boy, and be free like a tree and sunflower. Forget the world and set aside all danger and anger. Be the cloud and wind, happier and braver, like the earth, tougher and greater. Here, the author decided to come out of bed and try to seek for what the nature and environment was inviting him, and it's for him to experience earthing. And from that, I use some figure of speech here, like simile, by using the words like, and of course, metaphor as well, by representing cloud and wind as a person. All right, so in the third stanza, your name is Pandora, keeper and curious. Take away everything, barefoot be oblivious and wondrous. Step and walk in the earth's core, generous and pious. Tick tock, the time has come for the nature to be once again glorious and prestigious. Here, the author is internalizing and realizing the essence of nature and environment by running and uh, literally seeing every detail of the nature. Of course, with barefoot and walking through the grass of earth. And from that, I use some of the figures of speech, such as allusion, because the name Pandora here is present. We all know that Pandora is a keeper and curious. She was given a box, but aside from that, she also has the character or attributes of being curious. So that's basically his mindset when, or his personality when the author experiencing earthing. And also, it is also presented an hyperbole figure of speech in the line "Step and walk in the Earth's core." We all know that we cannot step in the core, Earth's core, but it is represented as something that you need to dig in to the earth for the author to really appreciate or understand the meaning of earthing. And lastly, I also used onomatopoeia here using the sound tick-tock, which is representing the time, or the the time where the nature and environment will be glorious and prestigious once again. All right, next stanza. I felt the smooth connection and relation. This is where I belong, my inspiration and direction. Alive, breathing, and full of abstraction. Behold the colors of rainbow, a least appreciated by the generation. So in here, we can imagine that the author realize and internalize everything about nature and environment. And from the lines, alive, breathing, and full of abstraction, it's like he's in the peak of earthing, and he really build that connection and interaction with the environment, which is somehow difficult to gain at some point, but now this is where he belongs and what inspires him the most. In the next stanza, I heard you even you are deaf, saw you even you are blind, felt you even you're just the wind, but I know you were so kind. Because of grind destruction, now you are rare to find. How can our people escape and unwind? So from here, the author also understand some implications or negative effects of destructing the nature and environment. And it also concerns the people and other generations if we did not take actions today about environment. And basically, he's very confident that we need to start something today about environment. And if we cannot do that, we cannot decide about that, people will not find escape or unwind basing on his experience or the author idea that nature is very limited. And as a person, as a society, as a human with intellectual capacity, we have the responsibility and duty for the nature to be safe, secure, and I think futuristic. All right, so let's now proceed to the last stanza. As I dressed my feet once again back to fake reality, praying that you will be remembered consistently by society. I walk out, but brought the spirit of naturality, the thing I will share to people boldly and courageously. Here we can assume the concluding statement of the author that um, he hopes that environment and nature is something that people will not neglect over time. Many people are always basing development in how many buildings, infrastructures, development, mainly physically, but society. That's their definition of development. But on the other hand, the author suggests that uh, even though we reach the point that we are so developed, we are so grow as a person, as a society, we should not let that forget or neglect nature and environment. And also, part of that is before she wears again his slippers or shoes after earthing, he bought something for others that he can share for them to realize what he noticed about environment and society. Here I use oxymoron by using the two contradicting words fake reality. So although because the idea here is that he will come back to where he started, like using social medias, technologies, and again neglecting or set asiding earthing. That's the reality, but it's fake. The real one is where you can have the connection or interaction with the environment. But then, still, the reality today is that uh, he needs to follow or align himself to the society than the nature, because that's how he survives and live his life. Now let's proceed to the literary criticism. So as I said a while ago, this is an eco-criticism poetry. I come up with this title and content because some will not really appreciate earthing. Earthing is something that I've learned in the past months while answering the A World application, and it is required for us students and all, I think, faculties and students in De La Salipa. I realize how it is important that we should connect and interact with the environment because this topic integrating in a poetic version is pushing people, can push people to take action, to take change about their behaviors and actions towards the environment and nature. It's a matter of time and education, which can pull the trigger that we can have an environment which is very balanced and um, that can handle every situation in society. Either it is for modern or traditional or environmental. In this poetry, nature is represented as inferior. That it is rare to find people earthing because we grow as a person with slippers, but with computers, with technologies, with clothes. But back then, people has a lot of respect and adoration with nature and environment. And earthing is something that we need to practice not every day, I think, but every part or pace in our life where we can surrender ourselves to the nature and environment. Not just it has a benefit for us, but also it helped us reach the ultimate definition of being a human person, which is we are alive and we can interact with the nature and environment, and we have responsibilities and duties for that. Many people will say that dealing with nature and environment sounds boring, old fashioned, and really out of date for our generation. But it's not something that we should look, right? So, nature and environment is part of our survivability and part of our responsibility for the next generation. It's not about the art, it's not just about the aesthetics that the nature and environment brought to us, but also the idea that we can interact with it, we can internalize with it as God's creation, and of course uh, our place and our setting as a human being. Now let's proceed to the second poetry I created, which is entitled Quarantines. For the overview, Quarantines is a biographical and experiential poetry about a boy and all of his experiences the quarantine period in COVID-19 pandemic. Quarantines means it is based in the Urban Dictionary. Quarantines are the things that occurred during the quarantine period due to the COVID-19 pandemic. All right, so uh, it is the author experiences and ideals from the beginning of the COVID-19 to until today. So let's start the poetry entitled Quarantines. It's not a dream or illusion. It's real like movies, masked on, distance out like any world stories. You will hide and stay, even you're an Aries. Don't know the beginning and end, but it has lines and series. Here you can assume that the author was shocked in the situation of the pandemic or COVID-19. He doesn't know that it's literally real, like a dream, or if it's a dream or just an illusion. It is something that he watched in movies, but now it's real and he is experiencing it. Here also represents the different updates in COVID-19 cases, the deaths in the line don't know the beginning and the end, but it has lines and series. Like Earthing, all of the lines here are also rhyming, such as the words movies, stories, artists, and series. So the figure of speeches that I use in this specific line is simile by using like, a dream or illusion. COVID or the pandemic is like a dream or illusion, like movies. And I also used the allusion in the third line, which is the you will hide and stay even you're an Aries. We all know that Aries is very ambitious. The character of Aries in a zodiac sign is very ambitious, very motivated, inspired, driven, and courageous. But now, because of the pandemic, he has no choice to hide or to stay. All right, so next line. I am a robot following protocols and procedures of health, just my life and myself with not enough wealth. I protect my life, but still look what I dealt. Boom, I got it, say hello. I will now being stealth. So here you can experience, or you can see how the experience of the author is very explained and narrated. So he compared himself in a robot following protocols and procedures, and he is also economically unstable, and even he protect himself. He still got the COVID-19 pandemic or the COVID-19 virus. Here I use the figure of speech such as the metaphor and onomatopoeia. In the line, I am a robot, so he reflects the author or himself as a robot. I also used onomatopoeia here by using the word boom to represent the shock that the author experienced in COVID-19. Right, so next line. Opportunity and gifts still knock on his door. Education continues as virtual reality and core. Becomes depressed and sad, cried to the floor. Still standing up for goals in what I adore. Here the author continues education, even he has COVID-19, he experiencing depression or anything. He has no choice but to continue education because it is something that is very special for him. And that's an opportunity that he needs to grab because it's for his goals and ambitions in life. Here I use the figure of speech, um, the personification, which is the line opportunity and gifts still knock on his door. I'm referring to the opportunity and gifts as a human attributes who knocks in his life. And the word virtual reality, which is a contradicting words, which represents that this is the reality today. This is the new normal, specifically in terms of education. Next line. The face of my identity suddenly revealed, a secret of my life that long time I concealed. A million keys only me can seal. Questions and confusion will be finally healed. Here, the author also experienced gender crisis and or identity crisis all throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. And now I think that he comes out and shows the world his true self, being brave and courageous enough to present his real and authentic self for others. Next line. The suitor grabbed my heart inside through his hands and takes care of it. It is not brutal and bloody, but explicit. Every moment and every beat, actions and words he exhibits brought me beyond my bounds and limits. Here, the author experienced, after coming out, a love of his life, something that he did not experience a long time ago, or is being scared if he pursue it. Now, he tries it and he experiences it with another man, probably, and they are also experiencing the same situation. And the line here I use is, or the figure of speech I use for this line is the hyperbole, which describes the suitor grabbing the heart literally inside through his hands and takes care of it. That's this line is all about. In the concluding part or concluding line, many lives have perished and suffered, but it is not the end. It is a symbol that life and experiences can be bent or ascend. COVID is something people cannot invent, but it will teach us to trust and love Him, heaven sent. Here, the author is still positive and faithful that after this pandemic and COVID-19, everything will be healed and better. And through praying, through holding with what we believe and trusting God, loving God, praying to God all time, each day we can overcome this pandemic and COVID-19. And now let's proceed to the literary criticism. So here, I use the theory or literary theory biographical in creating quarantines. And I think many people will reflect in this poetry that somehow pandemic doesn't only brought us to be healthy and safe, but also to find our true self and authentic self. We have experiences, we have realities in life that we are not yet fully explored. And from this moment, from this things in the quarantines. We can search about it. We can dig about it, and that's what happened to the author. There is not just being safe and secure all throughout the quarantine. It's about what can this quarantine period makes the most out of it, and how it will help me explore or dig for something that I thought I am not, I thought I cannot do, so something like that. The author experienced health issues, education issues, identity issues. And from that, he is brave and courageous enough. So from that, let's proceed to the concluding part of this presentation is the personal reflections. First is in Earthings. Earthings for me is something I can literally practice once or twice a week, because that video or cinematic or real poetry provide me or an idea that I can connect or interact with the environment. It's just we have different ways to connect with the earth. We have different ways to be responsible and obliged to take care of our Mother Earth. Earthing is one way to communicate with the environment and nature, which is really beneficial for me because I feel empowered, I feel healthier and wealthier, not in economic, of course, but also in my life. It just gives me the idea that this life is not just about yourself, but also other living things, including the Mother Earth. And that experience is something that I can take note, which is why I also uploaded it in my YouTube channel for me to remember my pledge and commitment that at some point I experienced it, and its purpose is not just in this capstone presentation, it's for others to watch it also, to realize and understand something, that earth is where we live. It is not we can change our planet, which others are also thinking. Earth is unique, earth is different, and this is the only place we can live happy and comfortably. We all know that development is always there, change is always there. You know, love and care for our mother nature is something we should not set aside, because earth is life and we can't live without it. Second is in quarantines. So these are all my experiences in the whole pandemic and COVID-19. I got the COVID-19, also have a gender identity crisis at some point in my life. But now it is already answered. It's very clear for me. I also have depression and anxiety dealing with education. But then all throughout the time, all throughout the moment, I realized that quarantine is not just about health security. No matter how I secure or protect myself, I still got COVID-19. And I realized that aside from protecting myself, what are the things that I can explore, I can dig in my life. And from that, I realized how socialization and having a a connection with other people is really important, that can uplift and motivate you every situation you had in this pandemic. Although all seems to be busy and uh, choosing their own lives, their own paces, socialization is very important, very therapeutic for my recovery in COVID-19, the depression, of course, family problems, and other conflicts. Is finding someone to talk to and releasing all your thoughts and ideas will really a great help for you to survive in this pandemic. And from that, I thank you for listening for this presentation. I hope that you gained something. And again, the link is also provided for the real and cinematic poetry I created. I hope you also enjoyed watching it. If you don't, uh, you don't uh, or not yet watch it, so please do so. And thank you for also having this opportunity that through poetry we release some parts or some experiences in our lives, and this will always be in my heart and mind. Thank you.